Good day, everyone. I am Jean. We will be discussing about factoring techniques or types of factoring. But for now, I will be discussing about factoring by greatest common factor. One way to find the greatest common factor, two or more numbers, is prime factorization. But first, what is greatest common factor? Greatest common factor is the greatest factor that divides two numbers. To find the GCF of two numbers, list the prime factors of each number, multiply those factors both numbers have in common. So in short, we look for those factors in both numbers where they have in common. And what about prime factorization? Prime factorization is a method to find the prime factors of a given number, say a composite number. These factors are nothing but the prime number. So to understand, here our example. What is the prime factor of 42? So our composite number is 42. Next, we are going to find its prime factors. 2 times 21, and then 21 is still composite number. We look also for its factors. 3 times 7. So we have now our prime numbers that consider as our prime factors, which is 2, 3, and 7. And we can list as 42 is equal to 2 times 3 times 7. So now, let's proceed on how we get GCF in our example of this polynomial. Here our example number 1. 15a plus 25b. 15 can be expressed as 3 times 5 times a. Same as 25b. 5 times 5 times b. So next step, we can identify the common factors. As you can see, I already separated the numerical coefficient in literal coefficient to make this easy. So now, we can identify that there is one common factor in numerical coefficient, which is 5. We can also encircle to help us easy to determine. While literal coefficient, there is no in common. So our GCF is 5. And in our factored form, we can now write as 5 times 3a plus 1b. Since we listed the prime factors, the remaining numbers that have no common factor, we can copy this inside the parentheses. We can just also multiply this. But in other way, we usually divide the term into our GCF to get inside the parentheses. And to check our factored form if it is correct, you can just multiply this and the answer would be same as the given polynomial. So now, let's proceed on our second example. 12x squared y minus 42xy cubed plus 48x cubed y. First step, we can enumerate the prime factors. 12x squared y can be expressed as the product of 2 times 2 times 3 times x times y. 42xy cubed. 2 times 3 times 7 times x times y times y times y. And for our third term, 48x cubed y to 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times x times x times x times y. Now, we can identify the common among the prime factors. Now, we can encircle the common factors, which are 2, 3, x, and y. Next, we get the product of these common factors. 2 times 3 times x times y. So our GCF is 6xy. And in our factored form, next, the remaining number, we can multiply these and copy the operation, and you can write this inside the parentheses. And to check it, multiply the factored form, and the answer would be 12x squared y minus 42xy cubed plus 48x cubed y. And now, let's try this. I'll give you 40 seconds to answer this. Just type the correct letter in our chat box. The timer starts now. And now, we will check if you got the correct answer. 14u squared plus 35u raised to 4. 14u squared can be expressed as 2 times 7 times u times u. 35u raised to 4 can be expressed as 5 times 7 times u times u times u times u. Next, we get the product of these common factors. 7 times u, and our GCF is 7u squared. And in our factored form, we have GCF of 7u squared. Again, you can copy the remaining number or just simplify, divide to get inside the parentheses. And last, multiply, and the answer would be 14u squared plus 35u raised to 4. And the correct answer is letter B. Now, let's proceed on our next topic, factoring by grouping. But first, what is factoring by grouping? Factoring by grouping is like undistributing or unwrapping our polynomial. The simplest situation in which we can factor by grouping is when we have a 4-term polynomial whose first 2 terms have their own common factor and whose last 2 terms have their own common factor. As you can see, we have these polynomials that has 4 terms. Usually, we use factoring by grouping if we have polynomial that has 3 terms or 4 terms that we can separate. So by grouping, we will group this polynomial into 2 groups because we have 4 terms. The first group would be 5x squared plus 2x. And the second group is 40x plus 16. So this time, we can apply what we have learned in our first discussion. The first factoring technique, which is factoring by GCF. So in our first group, our GCF would be x, and the second group is 8. So in our factored form, we can write as this. So as you can see, inside the parentheses of first group and the second group are the same. So if this happened, we can fit as 2 separate terms that we can also factor it out. Since we're using the factoring GCF, we can also use this in our second factored form of our polynomial. Because 5x plus 2, we can put outside because this is common term in our first big group and second big group. And our GCF is 5x plus 2. And after we separated 5x plus 2 outside the parentheses. And as you can see, the remaining number would be x and 8 inside the parentheses. So by factoring by grouping, we can produce as x plus 8 times 5x plus 2. So let's proceed on our next example. X cubed plus 2x squared minus 9x minus 18. So we have 4 terms. Again, we can group this as 2 groups and we will get the GCF. So in our first group, our GCF would be x squared, and to our second group is negative 9. So as you can see, we use negative sign because always remember, when you are factored out polynomial, you will always place outside the negative in your first term to have positive term inside your parentheses. So in our factored form would be x squared times x plus 2 minus 9 times x plus 2. So as you can see, in our parentheses is our common factor of the first term and second term. So we have x squared minus 9 times 2x plus 2. You can see it can still be factored out. And after you use factoring by grouping, you will check if you need to simplify further. And in this case, x squared minus 9 can be simplified because this fall into different 2 squared. So to factor, you need to use 2 or more factoring techniques to factor out your polynomials completely. So, our original factored form of our polynomial would be x plus 3 times x minus 3 times x plus 2 because x squared minus 9 can be also factored. So now, let's try this given polynomial. I will give you 40 seconds to answer. So good luck! Timer starts now. So let's check if your answer is correct. So we have 6x squared y plus 2xy squared minus 27x minus 9y. Our GCF to our first group is xy, and the second group is negative 9. So in our factored form would be 2xy times 3x plus y minus 9 times 3x plus y. And the common factor in first and second term is 3x plus y. So we place it outside and we copy the remaining number, which is 2x minus 9. So in factored form would be 2x y minus 9 times 3x plus y. And the correct answer is letter D. And that's all for today. I hope you have learned a lot from me. Thank you and keep safe.